Hi guys, welcome to another Blender tutorial. If you are a new subscriber, I upload everyday video. 100 subscribers, it's almost done. I'm not gonna give up on this channel, never. So, in the previous tutorial we built basically the basic shape of the mountains and some rocks, yes? In this tutorial we're gonna build more rocks to add more detail on those mountains, and we're gonna remove some part of the plane to add more realistic kind of feel to this, like some kind of part of the plane gonna be flat and rest gonna be mountains basically. So I am in shader editor. As you can see, I have my stupid tree in the previous tutorial that we built. Now we're gonna add maybe first the rocks. So shift A, you searching for the noise texture. Remember, just tap those value because I tested those value and it's working. So shift A, I'm adding noise texture. Duplicate this noise texture by selecting those node and shift D, selecting this node. Now shift D and you can duplicate this. Scale. On the scale on the first noise texture gonna be 0.5. And the second noise texture gonna be 0.3. Okay, this is basically the scale of the rocks that's gonna pop up on the mountains, yes, on this fucking plane. Now we're gonna need shift A color ramp, so search for the color ramp, and basically I'm gonna duplicate this by shift D, boom, and I'm gonna bring my textures coordinate and mapping from the previous tutorial, and I'm gonna connect this mapping and textures coordinate to this by holding Alt, right click, and just drag this line to connect this mapping and connect this mapping to the second noise. And once again I'm gonna connect this by holding Alt and to the first and to the second right here color ramp. Yes, this first noise texture and second noise texture right here. And you can play around on the color ramp. I'm gonna drag something like this, okay, to add more contrast on this black and white data, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna drag a little bit something like this, and you can of course see the results. Just go on the render view right here and just I think control shift and left click, or maybe shift and left click on the node. I forgot, because whatever. This is the shortcut, like control shift and left click, and you can see the results, what kind of node is doing. So we have those two noises. We're gonna need shift A Voronoi texture, so search on the textures Voronoi, and of course hold Alt, right click to drag this line to connect this. And we're gonna need matte node, so shift A matte, search for the matte right here, and on the Voronoi texture just plug the scale something like 1, and from the type F1 change this to distance to edge, and I'm gonna just connect this to this matte node and change this to multiply, and on the value I'm gonna add 0.1. maybe I'm gonna show the results. I hope my PC is not gonna lag in what basically the nodes it's doing. I'm gonna try, or maybe not, because my PC is shit. So shift A, we're gonna mix those color ramps and this Voronoi texture together. So shift A, search for the matte once again right here, and once again Alt, right click, drag this to this matte node, and shift A, I can duplicate this matte node, so select and shift D to duplicate this, and basically Alt, right click, and Alt, right click to drag this matte node that is connecting to this noises, and color ramps right here. This goes to the right here, yes, and this Voronoi texture and matte node that we add in this value 1 and 0.1 on the multiply goes to this right here matte node. I hope you see what I am doing. I'm gonna zoom in, and we're gonna change basically right here on this matte node to multiply on this first one and on the second one too. So basically on those rocks there are 3 matte nodes that are multiply: Voronoi texture, color ramps, and right here to mix those two together. Now I'm gonna just drag my displacement right here a little lower and show you. Basically, we connecting this first racks setup and this mountain setup to the right here, yes, math node. We must do this to the third kind of setup, yes, the second racks, to have more detail on those mountains. Okay, so Shift A, search for the math node, of course, math, and just plug this right here to disconnect this. In the previous tutorial, this setup, just drag this to disconnect this placement, and this setup that we built, just Alt, right click and drag this to this math node that we mixing those two setup with this setup that we created 1 second ago. Now I'm gonna select those nodes by the left click, Control J to create this box. You can F2 rename this maybe racks 2 or wherever, racks 2. Now, so this is the second racks. Now we're gonna build basically to remove some kind of part. You can do this, you can miss this step, but I'm gonna do this, give better view. So Shift A, I'm gonna add noise texture. And once again, this mapping and textures coordinate that we connect into all this shit, connect to this noise texture. So Alt, right click and drag this line on this noise texture, and scale must be 0.001 or maybe 01. I forgot. 0.01. Okay, it must be small, because basically the dark part of this noise texture, I'm gonna show you, it's gonna be flat. Okay, now that's very interesting stuff, because you can add color ramp if you want, and you can add max range, whatever you want you can plug. Shift A, I'm gonna show you on max range or whatever is, and later on the color ramp too. Right here, max range or whatever it's called, map range, fuck my English, goes right here, noise texture, factor to the value, and this map range, basically we control in the dark area. I'm gonna show you, okay, how it looks. We must basically connect this noise texture with the small scale and map range to this all shit to have this kind of flat surface a little bit right here. So Shift A, add math node. Once again, a lot of math nodes in this one, and connect this map range to the fucking right here to this math node, and once again connect this all shit right here, this math node that we connecting those three trees to this another math node, basically that we connecting this noise texture with small scale. And I'm gonna just connect this to the fucking displacement on the height, and I'm gonna change this to multiply. Okay, and I'm gonna show you. I hope it's not gonna lag in my PC, because my PC is shit. Basically this looks like shit, but you can control right here. I'm gonna show you. I hope my PC is not gonna lag in. As you can see, now it's basically nothing, but if I'm just gonna drag the number right here, maybe I'm gonna change this from linear to smooth step. You can do this. As you can see, this dark area gonna be flat if I'm gonna just drag the right here from minimum this scale. And if I'm gonna just click, I hope you see in this results it's not lagging. If I'm gonna just click Control Shift and left click, I hope this is the shortcut, you can see basically the results, and this is not looking like mountains. So we can basically play around on this map fucking range or whatever it's called. So I just drag in the map from max right here to create more a little bit bigger kind of stuff. Yes, so there is one way you can do this, because if you want to create shader from this, you could just connect in this boom boom 2 sockets, and you can control how much you flat you want to be, want those fucking mountains, if that makes sense. Yes. So as you can see, I can control right here is gonna be like and this part is flat. Yes, so there is one way, and you can add of course color ramp. Yes, but with color ramp it's hard to connect if you're gonna create the shader. So I'm gonna show you on the color ramp. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna just right here control shift and left click. I hope my PC is not lagging. Maybe I'm gonna change this to the solid view. Shift A, I'm gonna search for the color ramp. So you can choose whatever effect you want. And I'm gonna just right here drag the values, something like that. And I'm gonna connect this color ramp, of course, to this right here math node that we connecting this two racks and one mountain basically setup. Yes, I hope you get it how this works. And control shift left click on this principal BSDF, and basically boom. Wait guys, I'm gonna play around on this color ramp. As you can see, this is kind of flat. Yes, so we have choices. My suggestion, just use whatever you want basically. If you want to control this setup, of course you can build more to this, but if you want to control this on and create shader from this, just add map range, because you can't connect if you're gonna create some, how to say, if you want to create shader from this, you can't connect the color ramp. I can't basically figure out how to connect. Maybe it's the way, but I don't know. So as you can see, we have this kind of flat area and mountains. Yes, wait guys, I hope my PC is not lagging. Yes, and we got some mountains. Wait guys, I'm gonna maybe play around a little bit because it's too flat. So we can play around on this color ramp to basically lower the mountains, or maybe make it bigger. Yes, or maybe on the map range. Yes, as you can see, I have smaller, but if I'm gonna add this map range, I'm gonna play on the map range. Why not? Right here, factor to the value, and this goes. So there are two ways, of course. And in the next tutorial, we're gonna play around on the shading. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna show you a cool tip too. So I'm gonna connect this map range and just right here, see how it looks. Of course, it looks like shit. You can play around on this map range. Yes, and as you can see, without this basically stuff, we have much more detail with the racks. I hope you seen my PC is not lagging too much, because my PC is shit like my life. Yes, we got more kind of detail on those mountains, if that makes sense, with some rocks, and we're gonna plug textures from the rocks, and we're gonna add textures from the fucking mountains, so it's gonna be very cool. As you can see, we so much detail, and you can play around right here on this fucking map range to create this kind of flat surface, as you can see, if you want. Yes, so you can basically create different kind of landscapes if you want. Yes, with this stuff, and with the, of course, right here, yes, with this setup too. So I'm gonna show you later. So maybe I'm gonna leave with the map range, why not, and play around on the map range. I think not linear, but stronger, smoother step. It's the best one because it's the transition is kind of smoother, if that makes sense. Yes, and lower the from the max, of course, the value. I hope it's my PC is not lagging. And as you can see, I have this kind of cool mountain and this kind of cool flat surface. If I want, I'm gonna lower this, and cool rocks effect. I hope it's my PC is not lagging. Yes, cool rocks kind of detail with those noises and Voronoi textures. Yes. And in the next tutorial, I'm gonna leave like that smoother step, and as you can see 0.4, 0.6, and I have this kind of effect, and you can play around on the stuff, like I said, change this, play around to see the transition. But my advice, 0.01 is the value on the noise texture. If we're gonna just grab this to bigger number, you're gonna have this kind of stupid shit. Okay, I'm gonna play this on the fucking solid view because my PC is shit. But yeah, if you're gonna just play around on the scale bigger, you're gonna have this kind of noisy shit. It's not gonna look like mountains, so stay tuned for that. Look out for that. So yeah, we created two kind of rocks on this tutorial on this kind of flat surface if you want. And you can of course select those two and Control J to block this to this cube. You can build more to this, of course, but this is just fucking my tutorial. Okay, I'm not gonna sit and play around because I don't have time. F2 to rename this, maybe flat or whatever, flat, and you're gonna see what is doing basically. So yeah, in the next tutorial it's gonna be finished basically our shader, and we're gonna plug, and I'm gonna show you cool stuff because like I said, those little details on those rocks, we're gonna place different shader, and on the mountains it's gonna be different shader too, and we're gonna play around on the bump. We're gonna create bump and roughness nodes. It's gonna be fun. So thank you for watching. It's very simple. We create in just rocks and this flat. See you on the next tutorial, guys.